It's 5 o'clock in Pirate Country, and it's time to get pumped up with the P-Man. Hit the door and hit the road. 94.3 The Game is going to get you home, and the P-Man's not holding back.
Yes! Yes! Pirates win! Pirates win!
Bring on the Patrick Johnson Show on 94.3 The Game.
Holy mackerel! Oh, my goodness!
The flagship station of the ECU Pirates.
Steve Logan and the Logan Zone Thursdays, and that is at 5 o'clock. It is the show sweeping Eastern North Carolina, Pirate Nation, college football. Coach, been good enough to give us some time here as we wrap up the week. We'll get into ECU and Liberty. I'm anxious to find out something from you, though, Coach. And I understand there's a lot of circumstances that surround this, and as you often say, there's interest from different parties. But when you do what the Panthers did this week and you decide to bench the #1 overall draft pick, after you said the day before following the game, oh, he's going to start for us against the Raiders next week. So we know that the ownership's involved and the GM. And, I mean, again, that pro football thing's a whole different monster. But when you bench a guy, when can you bring him back? Can you bring him back? Is it a different kind of kettle of corn in the pros? Could you take us through that? Because I think you're as qualified to talk about this as anybody.
Yeah, I can tell you exactly when they would bring him back and if they would bring him back, and it would be due to injury to Andy Dalton. That's about it. And even if Andy Dalton got hurt, now that Andy's a starter, they may go bring in somebody else ahead of Bryce Young. And here's why. The unreported truth about working in the NFL is the management of the locker room is just, I can't tell you how hard, how time-consuming it is, how much attention you have to pay to the locker room, because there are politics in the locker room relative to the football team, and everybody's got an opinion, and all these men in the locker room are highly, highly paid and feel like they should have a voice, and maybe they should, maybe they shouldn't. Doesn't matter. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, for Bryce Young to have, he's been disgraced in the locker room, and there's no other way to put that. So all of a sudden you're going to try to bring this guy in and have him run the huddle and instill some confidence in the rest of the locker room to possibly go win a football game. Yeah. I don't know how you do it. I really don't. And that's kind of where things are. In fact, on my show, I'm going to give this I'm going to give it a segment about the Panthers and about what we're talking about, because I was thinking, I'm old enough to remember the first pick of the draft, Jamarcus Russell, imploding for the Oakland Raiders. I remember Ryan Leaf imploding. First, I believe Ryan Leaf was the first pick of the draft, imploding with the San Diego Chargers, I believe.
Yeah, he was the second behind Peyton.
He was behind Manning. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, and it really doesn't have to be the first pick of the draft, but I'm just saying when you miss on these first round quarterbacks, it's welcome to hell, because it's so hard to dig out of that thing. And of course, we all know the amount of draft capital that the Panthers gave away just to get the pick. Yeah. And then make matters even worse, you're looking at CJ Stroud, who they jumped over to take Bryce Young, and you're watching this kid tear it up down at the Houston Texans. And, you can accurately say CJ Stroud has made the Texan franchise viable for the next 10 years. And it's a giant mess. And I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah. Coach Steve Logan with us here. So according to PFF, for what that's worth, the offensive line performance for the Panthers is better than it was last year. Doesn't mean it's great, but it's markedly better than last year. Mm-hmm. That's what I think maybe makes this regression by him concerning, isn't it?
Well, that's true. And I get the Pro Football Focus thing. Those grades begin to be accepted as meaningful.
Okay.
When I was with the 49ers. which was 2015. That metric had been out there, and people would look at it, and then all of a sudden it invaded NFL coaching staffs. And there was a general agreement around the league that, hey, this kind of means something. And so general managers began to pay attention to it. Coaches began to pay attention to it. And like any statistic, it's worth paying attention to.
Right.
It's not worth deciding that it's the end-all answer. So, if they want to tell me that the Panthers line is playing better, well, we all know there's a ton of mitigating factors. Who did you play? Who are we blocking this week? Who have we blocked so far? All of those things that you could go on and tear that statistic apart. But at the same time, what I've seen just as an observer, the offensive line at the Panthers isn't a glaring problem. And the quarterback position has been. Yeah. I mean, Bryce Young, the delivery of the football is late. It's not timely enough. He doesn't have a strong arm. You can get away with that. And I've talked to you about this before. Matt Ryan didn't have a real strong arm, but the anticipation he had was so perfect that the ball was always there just ahead of the defensive back. It was always there right out of the break for the receiver. And Bryce Young isn't doing that. And he can't make up for it with arm strength. So you've got a problem. It's a real problem. Sad. I'm sad for the kid.
Yeah, you feel bad for him. By all accounts, he's like a great individual, great person, great family. And, I mean, he had success at Alabama, obviously. So, I mean, it really kind of, it's just one of those tough deals. So with Andy Dalton, Coach, what element do you think, the experience and maybe some of the things you talked about, savvy for the position, anticipation, obviously some talent, what does he bring to that position? And is Canales trying to Bryce Young maybe lost the locker room. Was this an effort to kind of keep Canales from losing the locker room in a sense too?
Well, exactly. There's some of that going on because, as I mentioned, Canales can't keep going into in the NFL, every morning at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, whatever the head coach chooses, every morning there is a team meeting.
Yeah.
And all of these issues are discussed openly. And so you can't be Dave Canales going in and selling Bryce Young after an 82 or 3 yard performance last week on however many throws it was. I have it written down somewhere here, but it's just, you can't continue to sell it to the players. And so, there had to be a meeting with ownership. There's no question. I mean, Dave Canales couldn't just do this arbitrarily. I went through this at San Francisco. It goes all the way to the owner. When you're going to pull the plug on a quarterback position, it goes to the owner. He's in the room. I've been there. And, you can do it with tight ends, wide receivers. That's what coaches do. Head coaches do that. But this went all the way to ownership. And I'm sure Canales, was just saying, hey, first of all, I think Bryce Young's spirit is damaged. And to leave him out there would be child abuse. Mm-hmm. So, he's going to have some rehab time, maybe get traded, put in a new system, new coach, a new everything. And he might come on and play great for somebody. Sam Darnold played great this week for the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, he sure did. Yeah.
And he looked like a lot of scouts thought he should look. So there's an example. Now that it was a 1-game sample size, but it was something. But this is, I think, where Bryce Young's headed.
With Dalton, what do you think he can bring that right now Bryce Young can't? And I mean, is it enough to win football games and at least to, placate the fan base a little bit? Because that is an abused and angry fan base right now in Charlotte, an embarrassed fan base, quite frankly.
Well, Andy Dalton, I was always a big fan of his, and he had a great career at the Cincinnati Bengals. He had a heartbreak career relative to just trying to win a playoff game. I believe he got the Bengals into the playoffs several times.
A bunch.
And got his heart broken several times and never got past that first round. But he's a quality quarterback, has great mobility, and he can walk into the huddle and say, hey, guys, I've done this before. And he's got street cred. I promise you, he's got street cred in the locker room, and he'll have it in the huddle Sunday. And I think you'll see the Carolina Panther offense produce something this Sunday, something. And I hope they do. And like I say, that's what he's going to bring to the table is credibility. And I think the players will play as hard as they can for him.
The great Steve Logan, the Logan Zone, Thursdays at 4 on 94.3 The Game and 96.3 down at the beach, the IBX Media app. I'm sorry, at 5. Good grief, at 5. At 5.
You're going to mess up everybody's
I'm at 4.
whole drive home.
I'm at 4 on Thursdays, and Coach is at 5, and I'm at 5 on Fridays, back on 5 at Friday. Coach got me straight there. See, Coach, I got the false start, and Coach immediately said, damn it, what are you doing, Johnson? What are you doing? That's why he's here.
You're running
that's
after
why
practice, man. You're running after. That's an unforced penalty.
That is an unforced penalty. You're right. Should Tua retire, Coach?
Who? I mean, on one hand, I can say, you know what? Troy Aikman had 8 diagnosed concussions. That doesn't count the ones back in his day when they didn't diagnose them.
Sure.
And Troy Aikman is sharp as a tack and a color commentator, and here we go, right? And I coached a young man. I won't mention his name. He was a running back in the NFL, and he is really struggling right now with CTE due to concussions. And it breaks my heart because I was very close to this young man, and he's a 40-year-old man now. And so what's the answer? I don't know. I mean, you just got to do what your heart says. I mean, you ask any of these football players, pro football players, do you regret it? And 100% of them say absolutely not.
Yeah.
And, on a much, much, much smaller scale, I've talked to my wife about this. They put a football helmet on me when I was 5 or 6 years old in Oklahoma. And I played till I was 20. And Lord knows how many times I had my bell rung.
Oh, yeah.
And, my neck hurts pretty much all the time. And do I regret it? No, I'd do it all over again. But, you kind of choose that, and it goes with the territory. Nobody can tell that kid what to do.
Yeah. The coach of the Pirates, ECU Hall of Famer Steve Logan, with us here. I want to ask you one more pro football thing. It's with Eli Manning. He was one of the new players that has been brought up for Hall of Fame consideration. He's excellent he's in some ways funnier than Peyton on the Manning cast. He's great. I don't know how much of those you watch. Probably a lot, I would guess. But, I mean, they're fantastic.
A little bit.
And he's great. Yeah. And so I'm just interested, Coach, 500-ish record, I think, as a quarterback with the Giants in the regular season, but 2 Super Bowls and beat Brady twice. Is he's Hall of Fame or I mean, is that not so much a slam dunk?
I believe he's in the Hall of Fame. Those 2 Super Bowls he went out and won were extraordinary quarterback play on his part. I really believe that. And he's a top tier quarterback, no matter what. And again, I'm one of those guys, because I coached the quarterback position and received an inordinate amount of criticism that goes along with that.
Right.
I'm very sensitive to all of the things that go into making a quarterback good, bad, or in between. And, your supporting cast matters, the scheme matters, the coaching matters. And again, you got to have all that stuff going for you. And guess what? There were 2 or 3 years in there where everything was right for Eli Manning. And guess what? If he didn't step up and hit the baseball when he was in that batter's box, there wouldn't have been 2 Super Bowls. When he was in the batter's box and all the other interests were aligned, he was good enough to get it done. And so, I mean, I don't know how you leave the guy out. That's hard to do, man.
He knocked off Brady, for what that's worth. I mean, Brady's got 2 Super Bowl losses. It's Eli.
That's good enough. That's good enough for me.
We got Steve Logan here. I want to ask you a couple college questions. We'll get the ECU Liberty, everybody, so chill. But with C.J. Bailey going in, I've asked a couple people this week, including your old offensive coordinator, Doug Martin. With C.J. Bailey going in to Death Valley to make his first career start as a true freshman, If you were coaching NC State right now, if you were Dave Doran, you would not have slept all week, I can't imagine.
Yeah, ideally, and I'm talking about this on my show as well. Ideally, Grayson McCall would have come back healthy enough to just at least start the game,
right,
and then bring the other kid in. That's a better dynamic for a young quarterback, and that's the older Pirate fans will recall me working David Garrard in exactly that fashion when he was a redshirt freshman. I had a young man named Bobby Weaver that was a good little quarterback, and Bobby started and played most of the first half of every game for David's redshirt freshman year. And David would come in second half, and I'd let him play until he would begin to do freshman things, and I'd pull him back out. But we grew David incrementally. And by the end of the year, David's last game of his freshman year, he threw for, I think you can look this up, 440 yards against Memphis and
Sounds
4
right,
touchdowns, something ridiculous, and we knew we had it then. And that's ideally how you'd like to bring C.J. Bailey along. And, going into Clemson and starting the game, everything being equal, what I know about college football coaches, they're going to dial up incredible blitzes early against this young man and see if they can knock him out of the saddle early. And if they do, it could get ugly pretty quick. If he can stand up to that, maybe North Carolina State's got a special one on their hands, and they'll find out early. It, can cut both ways. But,
yeah.
Lord, I wish that Grayson McCall kid was healthy enough just to go take 2 series.
Yeah.
And then bring the other kid in.
Yeah, it's a tough thing for Bailey, who could very well be the future. All right, ECU at Liberty. You got an interesting quarterback matchup this week with Jake Garcia for the Pirates, who they didn't put in as many positions to be as cavalier with the ball last week against App State. And you talked about just the great play the App State defender made on the interception. And then you've got the kid for Liberty, triple threat guy, and or option guy, throw guy, can run and throw, but also was like the player of the year before he went to Tennessee, the Texas quarterback of the year. That's pretty darn high praise right there. So how do you see that quarterback? It's another matchup where, we're not doubting Garcia's talent, but just from the experience edge, he kind of comes in as the second guy, I would think. But how do you see the matchup, Coach Logan?
Well, I ran into, again, you talked about Pro Football Focus.
Uh-huh.
I ran into kind of a parallel statistical deal on the internet that caught my eye from the standpoint of the way these stats were built was kind of like Pro Football Focus. They factor in the games that you've won and how the team that you beat or lost to has done since then to give you some sort of a metric. And it's interesting because right now, and they gave, they're putting these somewhat arbitrary numbers, but it's a metric is all it is, something to consider. And they've got East Carolina's offense, the metric they attached to that at 111 out of 132. They've got Liberty's offense metric at 37. So there's a huge difference there. They've got Liberty's defense at 83. They've got East Carolina's defense at 44, which is, sounds somewhat in the ballpark to me. Yeah, they've got the special teams from Liberty at a 114. And they've got East Carolina's special teams at number 8. Which I know that doesn't sound, I know it was a heartbreak last week, 4 points off the board from the kicker, right? He just didn't make the field goal, didn't make the extra point, and it added up. But the point I'm making is this thing looks at Liberty, it looks to be winnable because I think I think this Garcia kid can settle down and mature and grow into something that can be a really good college quarterback. And I think he might be on the way to doing that. This game's going to tell a lot moving forward. We're going to find out.
Coach Steve Logan, Thursdays, 5 o'clock, 94.3 The Game, 96.3 in the IBX Media app. Coach joins us from time to time on here. Coach, next time I talk to you, I want to get your top 5 pickers of all time. Any
Kickers?
genre with guitar. Pickers. No, pickers, guitarists. I want to get your top 5
guitar
guitarists.
pickers. Oh, Lordy.
Yeah, next time we talk, it could be any, whether it be from the blues or rock, however. Can we do that one of our next conversation? Maybe our next conversation. We'll do top 5 pickers of all time.
We could, but I can tell you right now, probably 3 of them nobody's ever heard of.
That's fine.
I'm that deep
We're here
into
to
it,
enlighten,
so.
Coach. We're here to enlighten.
Okay.
Lord knows they need it.
Yeah. All right. I'll get to work on that. Give me one more project.
Just one more project to do. All right. The great Steve Logan. Coach, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
All right, man.
Awesome to have Coach Logan. What a thrill. Philip the Ref Pilkington here. Purple, Paint It Purple Friday.
Yeah.
For the Ref. He'll be with us tomorrow, along with Joe Sampson. It'll be our Anson Belt and Buckle Pirate Game Day Countdown, and it is brought to you by Orthopedics East. Pil, great to hear from Coach Logan. His insights, Eli, a Hall of Famer, and hearing what he had to say about the situation with your Panthers in Charlotte. I noticed you don't wear Panthers gear anymore. With your Panthers in Charlotte, I thought was just spot on, great stuff. Talked about it yesterday on a show, talked about it here today on the PJ Show.
Yeah, it's good to have insight from someone who clearly knows what's going on, who's had to pull a plug on a quarterback before. He had to do it in San Francisco. So, he knows, and it's good to hear it because it's one thing to read the message boards and, like you say, the people who've the most competitive thing they've ever done is put on their jock straps. So,
well, not even jock straps, just their tighty whities. All right.
Sure.
We got C.J. Wilson coming up with us later on in the show, so stay tuned for that. He is the head coach of North Pitt. And they're off to a really fine start. They got Green Central at home tonight. Of course, CJ's won a world championship with the Packers. So we're going to have CJ Wilson on coming up. But when we return, does the P-Man care? On the Friday, get you to the weekend edition of the Patrick Johnson Show.
Sometimes you just don't know if you want to kiss him or slap him.
Ow!
Either way, he'd probably like it. The Patrick Johnson Show on 94.3 The Game.
All right. Welcome. Patrick Johnson with you. Does the P-Man care? Philip the Ref Pilkington, your affable host. Here we go, Pilk.
All righty, P-Man. We've got our third edition of Does the P-Man Care? Let me get the music pulled up. There we go.
Yeah.
There's our
there
music.
You go.
All righty, P-Man.
Value very high. Yes.
Tonight is the Xfinity Series regular season finale at Bristol. Okay. Driving the number 88 car for Dale Jr. Motorsports, the owner, Dale Earnhardt Jr., making his return to NASCAR. Does the P-Man care?
Only because Logan is driving. That's the only reason. That's the selling point of tonight, Pilk. I mean, you could tell me what is at stake tonight. I wouldn't be, that'd be cool. I'd like to know, maybe. It wouldn't stay in my brain. But the fact that Dale Earnhardt Jr. is driving tonight and he's still the biggest star in the sport is the biggest reason why you should care tonight. And that's the biggest reason I care about this race tonight. I will now look and see what happens later tonight or tomorrow just because Earnhardt was driving, Pilk. So you've provided a service to the peoples.
There we go. There we go, baby. Raise hell, praise Dale. All righty. Does the P-Man care? Adrian Wojnarowski, the longtime NBA insider, is stepping down from his position to take a managerial role at St. Bonaventure. Does the P-Man care?
So he said he was not able to put in the amount of work that he has to continue to be. Look, that ESPN deal, everybody wants to go work there, obviously. It's a grind, especially if you're one of those guys that's on their NBA or NFL coverage beat, because you know what they do, Pilk? They make you appear on everything.
Yeah.
You're on SportsCenter. You're on shows. You're on the pregame. You're on the postgame. You're on ESPN Radio. It's a constant hit. Now, if you're Rini and Golia, you're getting paid per announcing gig. But if you're a guy that's on the contract like that, that's got the multi-million-dollar contract, you got to write. And I mean, so that's what Barkley said. I think it's interesting that he is deciding to go to St. Bonaventure and not go be the GM for somewhere like Duke or Kansas. But he's got, ties to there because it's his alma mater. So, yeah, I don't care. I'm not a Woj fan. Thought he was a bit of a liberal ninny. There, I said it. But, I think what he's going to do is interesting, and I wonder, Dave Tellett did something like that a few years ago. He got out of journalism and went to go be part of the Spurs scouting organization. I just wonder I find it fascinating when people go and do that because they're pretty smart. So I don't know what qualifies him from the numbers standpoint, but his knowledge of basketball, I would have to imagine, is pretty decent. But he's not making GM decisions. The GM, he's negotiating NIL deals there.
Yeah.
So other than just having Woj affiliated with your program, I just don't know if that makes sense. But apparently he just wanted to get out of the machine that is ESPN. I don't care, but I do find it interesting.
Well, one thing I will say is due to his current state, he probably knows a lot of agents. And you're dealing with agents with NIL, so, good personal relationships, I guess.
Yeah, you're right. Good point, Pilk. Good call, Pilk.
All righty. Does the P-Man care? This past weekend, the U.S. women's golf team knocked off Europe in the Solemn Cup. First time they've won it since 2017. You didn't even talk about it with Brian Ball, which I'm happy you didn't because it gave me another one for Does the P-Man care?
See, I got a little American flag fish on my shirt.
I like it.
I love America, as you know. I'm big into America and Americana. So anytime we can beat the world or the Euros in something, I think it's great. That is the cup for the women. That's like the Ryder Cup for women, right?
Yeah.
Women's golf. We won. I care. Look, American golf has been dominated mainly by, players of who are Americans, but maybe are of South Korean descent or, Asian descent, that sort of thing. So I think it's good. And really the game has been dominated by a bunch of South Korean golfers. Yeah. So it is good to have, and I think to pep this President's Cup thing up, they've talked about doing some split teams. They ought to do some split teams.
Yeah.
Let the men and the women play with each other. I think that'd be great.
I agree.
You see Nelly Korda play?
Yeah.
She can ball.
Yeah, the thing is with golf, I'm all for different tee boxes because, if a man and a woman's playing the same hole and she has a 5-iron in and he's got a 7-iron in, he's got an advantage. She's got a higher loft club. But look, men are not necessarily better than women at golf. When it comes to chipping, putting, to being able to hit a precision shot with the same club, like there's no, the women should be very much invited to play. I would love a split one. But to your point, it's been dominated by the Asians, and before that, it was Annika Sorenstam, a Swede. So, hey, we need something.
I love the fact that we have American golfers that are rising up. So I do care. Yeah, it's great.
All righty. And for the final, does the P-Man care? Earlier this week, actually, I think it was last weekend. I think it was Sunday. The Canes, your Patrick, Carolina Hurricanes, because they haven't lost a game yet this year.
Right. So
camp started yesterday, so you're on the bandwagon. Started Thursday. Announced that Antti Raanta would not return to the team. He is finished, and he said that the summer down has made him want to go back home to Europe. Does the P-Man care?
Is he going to play?
If he plays, he's going to play overseas. He's not going to play in the NHL.
Yeah, they're not going to be in the NHL.
Canes.
Yeah. Who do they have in goal?
They still got Kochetkov.
And he's pretty good, right?
He is, yeah.
These are my Carolina Hurricanes, right?
These are. Yeah, Raanta hasn't played since
I don't care that he's left in. We've got somebody between the pipes, baby. We're fine. We're fine.
I love it. There you go.
You could have told me. You could have flipped the names, and I would have believed it, Pilk. All right. That'll do it for Does the P-Man Care this week. A good one. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen. More from our very own Philip the Ref Pilkington. He's got a 94.3 The Game sports update and Pirate report, and then ex-Pirate C.J. Wilson, the head coach of North Pitt. Straight ahead.
You ready for this? Oh, I'm very ready. Okay, ready?
You ready? Streaming to the world at 943thegame.com. This is the Patrick Johnson Show. Now in all his glory, here's the P-Man.
A little bit of our hometown football Friday night portion here of the Patrick Johnson Show that gets you to the weekend edition, big football weekend, and it all starts under the Friday night lights. You heard last week North Pitt on our station, 103.7, as they defeated Edenton, trailed in that game, and actually came back and won. We'll get into that in a moment. We welcome in the world champion, the ECU great C.J. Wilson, coach of North Pitt. Coach, great to talk to you again. Thanks for being on with us.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start with tonight's game, and you got Green Central coming to McNair Field. They'll honor the girls basketball state championship team during that game. But Green Central comes in, and I'm sure due to proximity and just the state of their program, should be a good game tonight.
Yes, sir. Green Central always got great athletes, they got a good coaching staff, and so we know that going to the game tonight is going to be a tough one. But we are prepared, and I think we're excited to get this one.
So the orange and blue fell behind last week, 14-0 in the first quarter, and then you went on a run of 52 unanswered points, and they got an inconsequential touchdown in the fourth. Did Edenton? So it's 52-21. Good way to start the season, and a big win at ER McNair Field on last Friday for you.
Yes, sir. They did jump out on us early, and I tell my players and coaches all the time, the one who adjusts the best and one who adjusts fastest wins. And we did. And we adjusted on defense and adjusted on offense, and the players just took care of business. I give them the credit. Most the players, they took care of business.
With if I read this correctly, there are at least 4 different sets of brothers on your team there.
Yes, sir. We have a lot of brothers. We got the Blunts, the Clemens, the Wilsons, and I can't think of who the other one is, but it's so many. And that's why we have a close team, because we got family, and those guys play for each other. They love each other, of course, from blood, but it spreads throughout the team. And those guys, they love each other. That's the biggest thing about today's game, is about having the family in the locker room. Family, set in the locker room.
C.J. Wilson with us here, and former Pirate, played over in Beaufort County, and defensive end, world champion, Packers during his time. Raiders too, right? New Orleans?
Yes, sir.
Do I have all that right? Do I have all the stops
yes,
right?
Sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And was a member of the 2010 NFL draft. Let me see who else. Detroit and the Bears in there as well. So C.J. Wilson joining us here on the Patrick Johnson Show this afternoon as we get ready. So here's what I have, Coach. I've got the Maldonado brothers, the Wilson brothers, the Clemens brothers, and the Blunt brothers. That's the 4 that I've got through my extensive research here.
Yes, and that's correct.
All right. Did all the siblings get along all right? There's always a brotherly rivalry. So are all the siblings fine with each other? They're probably not messing with you when they're out there and wasting your time, but by and large, they get along okay?
Yes, they do. They get along great. They have squabbles here and there, but it's all about the squabbles all about them being better at their job. So if somebody miss a block or drops a ball or anything like that, or miss a tackle, I can see them arguing with each other, fussing at each other, and that carries on because everybody see how they're intense, and how they're taking their approach to the game. It spreads to the rest of the team, and that's what I think about. I think that you got to have a family team to go far.
We got C.J. Wilson with the North Pitt Panthers on with us. They'll open EPC play tonight at home against Green Central at 7 o'clock. Then they'll travel next weekend to West Carteret for the final non-conference game at 7:30 before really, it's crazy. It's a stretch starting next week of 4 games in a row on the road. They'll start their first 3 conference games on the road before wrapping up with West Craven and Farmville at home. So a tough close for North Pitt's conference schedule. Knocked off Martin County in a real close game, and then, as we mentioned, knocked off Edenton Holmes, defeated them with a huge 50-plus point explosion, points unanswered in last week's game. And then we talked about it briefly before we went on the air here, CJ, and that is the South Central defeat. That was a little gut wrenching because it was so close, and if I'm not mistaken, South Central, if it wasn't a last-second field goal, they got a field goal late in that game to knock you guys off and snap the tie.
Yeah, if you watch the game, they score off a touchdown. The only way they scored really was the touchdown they caught. The quarterback throws through with his receiver. It bounces off his helmet and it floats in the air, and one of the guys just catches it, and that's how they scored the first touchdown. Second touchdown, they scored on a punt return. So they didn't really score in the game. The offense never scored on us. But that one miracle play, and then we had a miscommunication. So we only had 10 out there when they punted the ball, so they was able to return it and tie the game. And the late game they made plays and we didn't, and they was able to get the late field goal with maybe 26 left on the clock. So they escaped it, and we know it. They know it. That's fine. That's football.
Hey, I know we've kind of documented the various sets of brothers on the team. Who are some other players that are playing well for you right now? One of the great names in all of sports is Famous Wilson. He's your quarterback and has done a nice job running for you this year too. So, running for you this year as well. So, tell me a little bit about his season, and then give us some names of some other kids that have played well for you so far.
To tell you the truth, they all are playing well. I mean, but Famous is the leader. He's out there every day early. It's like he's another coach on the field. And like I tell the coaches there, we all know it. It's we know we only got him for this is last year, but you know when I take Famous, you know what? Let's make sure the guys on the field by 4:00 and they out there. And so he's a leader in the locker room, on the field, off the field, and that's great to have. And so we know he's playing great. He's already, I think he's top 5, whatever. All that don't matter to me. It does, but not right now. I want to win. And his brothers, Ethan, Braylon, and they do things behind the scenes. They playing great. And my other nephews, Isaiah. So I got 4 on varsity. They playing great. They play both sides of the ball on special teams. They all out there. And then you got the Maldonado brothers, who are probably, I would say, just the best running back duo in the 2A football right now. And they just been one that's really carrying. You know, Famous, like I tell them, I said, passes don't come off unless you be able to run the ball. And so they are the one that's carrying the team right now. The Maldonado brothers, they in defense too. So, yeah. And then you got the Clemens brothers, and right now, so unfortunately, our star running back hurt his ankle in the first scrimmage this season, so he's still dealing with that. But when he gets back, they're gonna really propel us forward. And then you got the Blunt brothers, who's our starting center, starting nose tackle, and his brothers are starting dime technique. And those guys are great too. So I'm blessed to have the talent I have at North Pitt this year. Yeah. And I'm just, making sure that I don't, making sure that I help them to be their best every game, every practice, so that they can be the leaders of this team.
And Coach, give us a little bit about the assistants who are helping you out this year. I know that's a big part of it as well, is having people in place to help you impart this knowledge and impart the lessons and the coaching on these young men.
Yes, sir, and that's correct. I always tell my coaches, or my assistant coaches, that you're only good as your help. You're only good as your help. And one thing I would say, so right now we got a lot of coaches that have played ball. We got starting at offensive line coach. He played at East Carolina. Had a full scholarship there as an offensive lineman. Coach Michael Jordan. And then I got the receivers coach, Coach Rock Harris. He played at 4A football. There's a star receiver there. Running backs coach is Coach Howell. He went to I think it's, don't get me wrong, I think it's Livingstone College or the Lord Ryan, one of those. But he played collegiate ball, so he understands the game. And then when you go, you got tight ends coach, head JV coach is Coach Larry Edwards, who's been coaching over 40 years. And then you got the offense coordinator, which is Coach Steve Staten, who's been involved with football for all his life. He's been doing it for 30-something years. So he's very knowledgeable with the game. And then when you go to the defense side of the ball, then you got the D line coach, strength coach, Coach Henderson, who played at East Carolina Pirates, and he had played a few snaps at the professional league level. Then you got my brother, who's a non-technique defensive end coach. He played at A&T College, so he's from Notre Dame. So I'm the linebackers coach at the moment, and then my DBs coach, he played at Campbell University, and so he's very knowledgeable with the game. And so, and then you got a few other guys that steps in to be assistant to those guys. Was Coach James Ford, Coach John McCullough helps with the receivers, and so when you look at those groups of guys, and I mean, what can you say? I mean, and this is the reason why the success we're having this year is because of those guys putting in the hard work and the way we watch film, the way we meet, the way we practice. If you come out and see us practice, we practice harder than we do in the game. I mean, we run harder than we do in the game. After we won on Friday, the guys was doing gases after the game because they messed up. So I'm pushing them very hard this year.
Yeah. Well, and you want the games to be the fun part and the payoff of all the hard work and easy compared to practice. And it sounds like that's what you're doing there.
Yes, sir. That's exactly right.
C.J. Wilson with us here. He, of course, Super Bowl champ, played at East Carolina, and he is now coaching North Pitt. He's done a great job of keeping that program rolling and taking it to a new level after the turnaround there a few years ago. And CJ got in there at the right man at the right time in the right place for him. Awesome to have CJ with us here. Wanted to ask you a little bit about we have talked about your career at various points. It just kind of struck me as you were running through all these coaches and these gentlemen that are helping you. And boy, it sounds like you've got a great group. Who are some coaches that stood out to you in your career, at any level, high school, while you're at ECU and the pros? Who are some guys that had lessons that stuck out with you, or maybe that you lean on to get some advice when you're making some, just talking coaching now in modern day?
That's a great question. Never been asked that. But when it comes to my mind, I think that my career is a journey. When we first started out, my previous coaches just taught me how to line up. And I remember some of the things they taught me about the game and the effort and, the quotes they said, at when I was 9 years old and I got to high school, my high school coach, which I think about him all the time, all the quotes he said, having class and just the way you play the game, Coach Bass and Coach Mitchell, those guys was great. And they were legends in their day, coaching and whatnot. When I got to college, Skip Holtz was one of the coaches that that stay alive. They have speeches. Hudson, like I said before, he was a great guy. Coach Hargrave, my position coach, really took me to the next level. Having to sit down in his office many days, and he just telling me more about how to be great. And I give a lot of credit to Coach Hargrave because he was my position coach at college. Then the pros, my position coaches, they all gave me different things. Not only that, special team coaches. And in the NFL level, it's all about, how to be your best to beat the guy in front of you. So it's more of an individual thing. And so it's so much I can sit here all day and tell you the things I've learned. And so when you compile that together and you come and coach at the high school level, you put it together and you start remembering stories about different situations. And then, during the game, you can remember, okay, I remember this happened to me when I was playing against West Virginia. Here's Edenton running the same offense that West Virginia ran when I was playing at East Carolina, came in East Carolina was ranked top 8, top 10, and we was able to stop them and win the game, and so the same offense with Pat White. And so you see this and you start telling the guys and show them what film, what me doing to stop them. And that's what we've been doing this, so far since I've been here, just remember the things I've learned and just, teaching them about it, and not only football, but having guys to come and talk to them about life, how to be successful, why you don't just want to put all your eggs in one basket. So it's a journey. It's been a journey, and we can see the effects of the team and the coach here at North Pitt. And I'm just honored to be here to work for Mr. Harris, who gave me the opportunity to be here.
Hey, you've obviously got a lot of season left to play, off to a nice start, and conference starting up tonight. What do you have to do to be successful tonight and as a team be successful the rest of the way?
You know, I tell my guys every night, and especially tonight, it starts up front. We have to control the trenches. And Green Central always got some big guys. They do this year too. And so we know it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough battle up front. Whoever controls the trenches normally win the game. And so we got to control the trenches, control the tempo, and have 100% ball security on offense. Make the plays that we are given. Don't try to force the ball from a quarterback. Running backs, take what's given. What we practice. Defense, just do what we coach you to do. Everybody, all 11 hats to the ball. We're gonna be fine. And so we know the objective. We know what we got to do, and we adjust on the go. Because one thing I tell my coaches and players is never gonna go with you how you want it to go. Every night, every day, things gonna change. Adversity hits, but you got to be able to adjust on the go. You can't sit there and cry with spilt milk. That's not what we practice. Down, don't worry about it. It's a long game. Just claw your way back up and back out of every situation. And that's what we've been doing. And that's how we're going to take the approach tonight.
Hey, Coach Wilson, thanks a lot. Best of luck against Green Central and the rest of the way.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me on.
C.J. Wilson, awesome to have him on. Thanks to Coach Logan for being on with us as well. It'll be Green Central and North Pitt tonight. Also, Aiden Grifton at 0-3. They'll try to snap a 9-game losing streak. They're at 2-2 West Craven. JP2 at 4-1 Parrott tonight in 8-man football. Rose on 102.7 tries to get the conference slate started with their first win of the year. They're taking on Jacksonville. How about South Central 4-0 at Northside Jacksonville? 4-0 also Farmville at 3-1 Southwest Edgecombe tonight. Conley's off, and you can hear Washington and Pamlico right here on 94.3 The Game with Scotty Rogers and Addison Bass coming up at the top of next hour. Something's got to give. Somebody's going to win a game tonight between Washington and Pamlico. All right, Philip the Ref Pilkington. We'll see you tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Pirate Game Day Countdown.
See you then. I'm looking forward to it.
Joey Football, Joe Sampson, Philip the Ref Pilkington. Yours truly. Tomorrow, Pirate Game Day Countdown as we get you ready for ECU Liberty.